Hi, family. I am a little under the weather, but as I promised, here's the second installment in our Plan B series. Today, I'll briefly talk about some of the many things I learned about preparing to change locations within your own country in the event of danger or disaster. I read some articles and I watched some videos, and I'll share the information that I feel is more important for you all to decide on whether you have an onshore or an offshore Plan B. There's a lot of information, but I'll share it in a way that you can logically follow. The best place for your Plan B away from home in the city is going to have the following qualities, and I'll share an explanation after each one. The most important practical factor that I learned is that your Plan B in the U.S. or whatever country you are needs to be no more than 8 hours from your current home. You should have a maximum of an 8-hour drive from home on a route that avoids large cities and major interstate highways. If the excrement hits the portable cooling device and you're still in an urban area trying to get out, the further you have to travel, the more the chance that things could go wrong and you'll not get there. The car could break down, you could be confronted by people with ill intent, the government could set up checkpoints on the roads, and the list goes on. Plus, you want to be able to go to the land several times before any major situation so you can build or enhance the buildings and learn the terrain of the land and meet your neighbors. Now that you've selected a place within 8 hours of your current home, here are some of the other good criteria for your Plan B homestead. The land should be rural, at least 60 miles from the nearest town and away from any public transportation. That way, you have a better chance of keeping unwanted guests away from your land. Anytime disaster happens in the city dwellers flock to the rural areas like roaches run for cover when the lights come on. The least amount of people in your environment during a disaster, the lower the threat to you and your family. Food and medical facilities should be within 30 minutes from your selected Plan B home. You'll need to buy food from the grocery store at least until you have your garden and farm up and running. Also, you wouldn't want to have an issue getting to the hospital or having the ambulance have problems finding you. You want to make sure that you have water and electric hookups. Eventually, you'll want to be off-grid, but when you're first starting out, you'll need these. The land needs to have trees, not just trees that can burn, so that if firewood is needed, you have some. Trees also provide shade and cover from intruders. The land needs to have a viable water source. If you have a creek, lake, river, or well on the property, you have your water issue resolved. If you don't have water, consider having a well dug on the property. The land needs to be made of different terrains, some mountainous areas so that you can see all around, and some flat land for animals. You can plant a garden on a slope, but make sure the slope is getting enough sunlight. It will be good for the land to have various types of wildlife for hunting in case your supplies run out. But you really at least need to know a little bit about hunting. If you're purchasing this property, it will be good for you to have clear title. In other words, make it a priority to pay off the mortgage because when things get crazy, you may not have a way to pay a loan. Recognize the security of registering the property in the name of a limited liability company that you own instead of being registered in your name. This adds another layer of privacy if someone is using the property records to track you down. And make sure you have unrestricted property rights. I've dealt with zoning boards, and it's not fun when people have the right to tell you what you can and can't do on your own property. Here's another serious one. Be aware of the land surrounding you. Make sure you have fresh air and that there are no factories or industrial or manufacturing plants around to pollute the air and water. Make sure that the land around you is zoned at least residential. The more acreage you can get, the better, because it will be horrible if you wake up one day and find that someone has purchased the adjacent land and that they're building a strip mall or a 300-unit apartment complex right in your backyard. My dad has a client that just experienced this situation, and now she has at least 200 eyes that can look down into her backyard at any given time. She's hiring Dad to build some type of wall in her backyard to limit their view of her property. All cities across the nation are constantly stretching out into the suburbs and then into the rural areas, so make sure you do your research. Most people would want a climate that is mild in the winter. If you're in the South, then you'll have mild winters, and although summers are hot, you can adjust to the heat easier than you can manage below zero temperatures in the Northwest or in Alaska. You need to check to make sure that the area is not prone to floods, tornadoes, or earthquakes. It will be a shame to build up your Plan B and not know that it's right up Tornado Alley or in an area that floods every 5 years. Finally, here are some other things that you should take into consideration when selecting your U.S.-based or your country-based Plan B. You need to have at least one alternative route to get there, in case the main route is blocked or full of desperate people. You may consider having pull-off areas and small stashes along the main route. Let's say you drive for a few hours, and for some reason you have to or need to stop. If you're prepared, you can stop, rest, and access a hidden stash and then continue on. Be as far from any major highway as possible. You don't want to be stuck on an interstate, and you don't want people able to get to your land with ease. As soon as you've settled on a place, get to know your neighbors, especially in rural areas. Rural tax collectors are naturally interested in the local properties, and they talk to their friends and neighbors. Be on your best behavior when interacting with local store clerks, county officials, the mail carrier, and anyone else in the community, because they all talk to each other about new people, which is you and your family. Your neighbors will know all about you and what you're doing to the property long before you meet any of them. Your reputation will precede you. On the flip side, you want to know who they are. Why are they living so far out? Are they preppers? Are they running a criminal enterprise out there in the sticks? Are they in a witness protection program? You might want to find out. The bottom line is this. You need to figure out whether they're assets or threats. You can find out about the people in the area by staying on the property a few days, going to the local restaurants, and talking to the townspeople. Next, when you're talking about your place, always call it a vacation property and never a bug-out location or survival retreat. You don't want other people to know your real intentions for the property. Try to anticipate the dangers that you might encounter on your trip to your Plan B if something breaks out while you're still in the city. What if your car breaks down on the way? What if you get there and someone is on your land? Who do you share your travel plans with? Another thing that I want to bring up is about community. You gotta have community to survive. You can't survive out there by yourself. And if you're having to take your family, and if you have a small family, you might want to invite others to go along that you know and trust so that you all can make sure that the property is secure. Some people can sleep a certain amount of hours while the others are on watch and so on. Bottom line is you can't do this by yourself. That's all for now. That's a lot, but I believe that it will help you decide whether to stay put or have a Plan B that's somewhere else, especially if you live in a very populated area. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And remember to go over to wakethepeople.com and register on my private website so that come July 1st, you'll receive my uncensored financial teaching straight from the source and from my private platform. Also, mark the date. Atlanta, August 19th. I will be doing the first KPG live since the pandemic. So make sure you make arrangements to get down there because it's going to be real. Our next 2 Plan B videos will concern leaving the country to find your Plan B. What steps make the most sense? Until then, this is Sherry Peel Jackson signing out.